In today's video, I'm going to be sharing the 5 altcoins which I think could be next to run. The crypto market is absolutely exploding. You have Bitcoin here breaking above key major resistance on the weekly and is now firmly within a range between 31,500 and 42,000. Because Bitcoin's been leading the rally, a lot of liquidity has come into the crypto market but hasn't yet siphoned off into the altcoins. And although we've seen some really explosive pumps over the last couple weeks from the likes of Solana and Injective, I believe there are still many altcoins that haven't quite yet lived up to their potential. So that's why today I'm going to focus on the 5 altcoins that in the more immediate future I'm prioritizing, both from an accumulation perspective but also from a trading perspective. It's important to note that Ethereum is by and large the leader of the altcoins, and Ethereum has been lagging versus Bitcoin, but this may soon be about to change, with today the major announcement coming through that we got the official lodgement of the iShares Ethereum Trust being registered in Delaware. BlackRock did the exact same thing before they filed for a Bitcoin spot ETF, so this is an indication that they likely think that a Bitcoin spot ETF approval is likely, and also B, that they are applying for an Ethereum spot ETF. Now clearly, just like the Bitcoin spot ETF was so amazing for the price action of Bitcoin, the same thing could be replicated on Ethereum as people start to pile into an Ethereum spot ETF trade. And this is really the catalyst that I think Ethereum needs in order to start gaining steam versus Bitcoin, because as you can see in front of you, ETH BTC has been declining since its peak in October 2022. Interestingly, on the weekly chart, we're now starting to see a reversal similarly to the reversal in June 2022, which resulted in a break back above the major support line and a rally for Ethereum back to the upside, which is the range high level at the 0.08 region. Ethereum right now looks like it wants to break back into this range, which is very important because Ethereum leading the alts, if it can start to gain some strength, then obviously altcoins can perform super strongly. So in light of this, it's important to start looking at what altcoins could outperform if Ethereum also starts to gain traction here. And that's why in today's video, I'll be sharing the 5 altcoins with you that I'm personally looking at, also including a bonus altcoin at the end of the video. If you do enjoy this style of content on this channel, make sure to click the subscribe button, because every single week I upload a video to help you succeed in the market, whether that be altcoin guides, altcoin deep dives, airdrops, and more. So make sure you also click the notification bell so you're the first one to be notified when I upload a new video. I put a lot of work and research behind these videos because I want to give you the best possible content every single week. Let's get on with the video. An interesting thing to note here is that Bitcoin dominance is starting to reverse, and although Bitcoin has been leading the rally, we're now starting to see more interest coming into the altcoins as people start to really buy into the narrative that the crypto bull run is beginning. And right now, believe it or not, we're in a situation where retail hasn't really come back into the crypto market yet. It's mostly the crypto degens and the institutions bidding on Bitcoin, so the altcoins haven't really had their time to shine versus Bitcoin. In fact, if you look at a lot of the altcoin pairs versus Bitcoin, they're still pretty much making new lows and are only just starting to show signs on some of them that they are reversing. So in today's show, the 5 altcoins I'll focus on are the ones that I think have the strongest potential to reverse versus Bitcoin and outperform, because there's no use longing the weak coins in the market that don't have strong catalysts, that don't have strong fundamentals. We want to be going for the coins that have super strong narratives. So that's why altcoin number 1 that I want to talk about in today's video is Arbitrum, because Arbitrum has 3 really powerful narratives behind it. The first one is the fact that the proposal to activate ARB staking has passed, which means that there is now going to be more demand for the ARB token and less supply circulating as more people need to stake the token. Arbitrum's also a super interesting token because it's considered a new coin, so has less underwater bag holders than a lot of other L1s and L2s from last cycle. The second thing that's quite bullish for Arbitrum is the EIP upgrade in Q1 2024. Now, although this has been delayed a couple of times, we know it's coming, and we know what that upgrade to the Ethereum network is going to do is reduce gas fees on Ethereum by an order of magnitude. This is going to be really good for layer 2 network usage because it's going to be much more competitive to use layer 2s versus mainnet Ethereum and also other chains, think Cosmos, Solana, etc. So this will be great for the L2s in general. But the third reason why I'm bullish on Arbitrum is, I think, the biggest reason of them all, and that's the fact that Arbitrum is issuing an ecosystem fund, which which is set to act as a form of ecosystem stimulus, as individual projects building on Arbitrum are now receiving capital to distribute as they wish to the governance holders of their platforms. So you're going to see applications like GMX, you're going to see applications like Pendle, Grail, Radiant, etc. actually issue some of these incentives to the governance holders of their tokens, which means more activity in general on the Arbitrum ecosystem, because incentives attract liquidity to come into the ecosystem from other chains. We've actually seen Arbitrum starting to gain steam in terms of its metrics, active users, and transaction volume versus Ethereum, Optimism, and other L2s over the last couple of weeks. So it's an ecosystem I'm bullish on. But if you want even higher beta exposure to the ecosystem, it's worthwhile looking at some of the altcoins in the ecosystem. The one I want to bring up in today's video is Radiant Capital, because not only is it a project, it's a money market that has exposure to Arbitrum, but it also has exposure to another major narrative in the market, and that is the Layer 0 airdrop, which is slated for a late Q4/early Q1 release next year. And what this is going to mean is that Radiant essentially offers you a proxy bet to the Layer 0 ecosystem, because it's one of the major ecosystem altcoins for Layer 0, and also a bet, as I said, two birds with one stone, for the Arbitrum ecosystem, because it's a major Arbitrum alt that is benefiting from the ecosystem fund as well. So it has a strong narrative behind it, and when I look at the chart, I see it's looking relatively strong. You can see here that it has moved up, it's broken above its major resistance level. We recently got a test of this level. Let's see if it tests again, because this is on the daily candle, and it looks like it just wants to find some ground here. But I think buying this at this support level at the 24-cent zone is definitely not a bad trade, considering when you zoom out, structurally, it looks quite solid, starting to break above that major resistance. So Radiant covers a couple narratives. The chart looks solid. If you can get an entry in this zone, that would be amazing. For your lower level DCA zones, the 22-cent zone is your next level. But with the current momentum of the market, you would actually probably want it to hold that higher low in order for the bullish momentum to remain. And it's very important to long the strong coins in the market, because you don't want to be longing the laggards here. This is a market that rewards strength. Long your winners and cut your losers, basically, is the strategy for market conditions like this. All right, let's move on to the next narrative, and this is crypto gaming. I have a couple of picks within this sector, which I think could outperform, but let's rewind to exactly why I'm talking about crypto gaming today. I think gaming, by and large, has been a narrative which has been largely forgotten by the market due to the fact that nothing has really been happening. Not many new games have been launching. It had a lot of crazy hype in 2021, so prices got really hit, and sentiment took a huge knock across the gaming ecosystem in general. But what's happening now is I'm starting to see a lot more of the top creators talking about crypto gaming again. I'm starting to see funding versus other sectors in crypto remain relatively sticky, with Q2 2023 resulting in almost $1 billion being raised for Web3 protocols. And I'm also seeing, now that market conditions are improving, a lot of crypto games that are slated for 2024 releases starting to test and tease their betas. And this means that I think 2024 could be a big year for crypto gaming in terms of new games coming into the ecosystem, but also in terms of the narrative starting to garner some hype again. And we can clearly see this over the last 7 days, with many of the top gaming protocols starting to perform well in terms of price. Now, YGG Games, which is one of the biggest gaming guilds, has their summit on November 18th to November 25th, and I do believe there could be a trade around this summit in the lead up to this summit and also around this week, because we've seen in recent times crypto conferences have acted as a major catalyst for positive price performance on altcoins leading up into those conferences. So this is one, an interesting trade, but two, an interesting narrative in general, given the fact that gaming is starting to come back into the picture here. So I have a couple alts I'm looking at. The first one is YGG. Considering it's now starting to break above a major resistance on the weekly, it's looking quite good. We saw it did have a massive wick and market manipulation up to $1 a couple months back. I mean, I don't necessarily think it can go to $1 within the next few weeks, but that is the target that's been set. It also wicked up there again last July, so a couple of times it's tested this level. Now starting to look really structurally good ahead of its conference, and as I mentioned before, conference hype is real with a lot of these coins. So this is one I'm keeping my eye on. Long term, I can name a couple others that I like. I really like Nakamoto Games long term as a bet. That's more of one that I'm DCAing into over time, stacking on major dips, adding to my general gaming portfolio. Another one I really like is Vulcan Forged. I actually tweeted that I was buying this one around $2. It's over $5 today, so that one's performing really well. Those are a couple of my long-term bets, but in the more short to medium term, and also long-term term to some extent. YGG, I think, stands out to me just based on charts, fundamentals, and market catalysts. And then also GMT is one I'm looking at. It is slightly behind YGG in terms of price action, but in terms of a catch-up play, GMT looks interesting. Also, starting to hover around this key weekly resistance level. If you do see it breaking and holding above, GMT has a long way to go being one of the leaders in the gaming ecosystem. Now, I never expected to get back up to its all-time highs again. That would be unrealistic. I'm not calling for 50x's here, but what I do think could happen is a solid pump for GMT if it starts to gain momentum. Really look at this weekly chart. It's definitely one to add to your trading list, to your watch list, if you haven't already. Now, long term, if you really want to capitalize on a bigger crypto gaming bull run, because I believe at some point, and it may not be too far in the future, we are going to get a big crypto gaming bull run. One way you can get exposure to this narrative is by getting into new gaming tokens early via IDOs. And I think the optimal way to do this is via crypto gaming launch pads such as Seedify. Seedify is an incubator and launch pad for crypto gaming projects, which allows you to invest in crypto gaming at its early stage to take advantage of projects with huge upside potential on the day that they launch. Now, I don't know if you can remember, but back in 2021, some of the best performers were on launch pads like Seedify. In fact, you can see in front of you that on Seedify, the average return since IDO was 4,469%. That's a 44x return per launch. So it's clear that some of the most explosive upwards price potential comes from these early stage investments. And the only way to really get access from them, unless you're like a VC or unless you're investing in private rounds or if you get lucky in public rounds, is through launch pads which offer the IDO. Now, Seedify, who for full disclosure are a sponsor of this video, offer a simple model to get access to these IDOs via a 6-step system that involves you purchasing and holding S-Fund tokens, staking your funds, and on IDO day, just for staking, you get access to the whitelist as long as you have enough fees to connect to the website and purchase your tokens. Now, the craziest part about participating in IDOs on Seedify is that they have a refund policy. So if you want a refund for an IDO that you're participating in, you can request a refund within 7 to 14 days of the project listing, and you can receive an unconditional refund. This essentially makes investing relatively risk-free because if you're not happy with how the token's performing, you can just request a refund. So that's a pretty cool mechanism that they have implemented, and I think it gives investors on the platform peace of mind that whatever happens, their money is safe. So if you want to participate in these IDOs, I'll leave a link in the description below to Seedify, where you can buy S-Fund in order to stake it and participate in these IDOs. I want to read a tweet from Hustle now on Seedify because he's a crypto gaming expert that streams on Crypto Banter. He says that he thinks S-Fund is extremely undervalued, and once the launches ramp up, it's going to heat up in price. He says, I think it's a low-hanging fruit and potentially one of the easiest multiples you will get in any project out there. Early investors want IDOs. They must buy S-Fund and stake in order to participate. Supply and demand is simple to understand, and the demand is definitely around the corner once projects begin launching. So it's a very interesting play if you don't want exposure to that side of things, but obviously you have to decide whether the launchpad narrative is something you want to invest in yourself. So thank you to Seedify for sponsoring the channel. And now I want to move on to the 5th altcoin, which I think can outperform in the market over the coming months, and that one is Pendle. So Pendle is super interesting because it essentially enables you to trade yield. It's essentially a DeFi yield market which allows you to unlock the full potential of your yield, enabling users to execute advanced yield strategies such as fixed yield, long yield, and earn yield without additional risks. But there is one element of Pendle that I'm extremely excited about, and that's the potential synergies for upcoming narratives like real-world assets. So theoretically, Pendle is a super flexible platform that can host a variety of yield-bearing narratives. It could be home to some of the real-world asset verticals like the tokenization of bonds, real estate, yield on treasuries, collectibles, etc. So the flexibility of the platform, I think, is a huge bonus, and it's a coin that I'm actively looking to accumulate over the coming months. It also has exposure to the Arbitrum ecosystem fund, as we discussed earlier in the video, as a potentially powerful narrative, and it also has exposure to a variety of new narratives. It's a very cool project because it's not just relying on one ecosystem. Essentially, since it's so moldable, it can be molded to any narrative. It's a vertical for real-world assets. It could be a vertical for crypto gaming if play to earn yield starts to crop up, etc. So it was one of the major players in the liquid staking market this year. As you can see, the TVL has been exploding for pretty much the last year, and I think there's a massive value prop here with what they're offering. So Pendle is one that's definitely on my watch list. I'm waiting for major pullbacks. Of course, course, with altcoins, you're much better off buying on the days when you do get big corrections, and they do happen even in bull markets. You still see 20-30% correction sometimes, so it's one that you can DCA into slowly. And I mean, as a general rule of thumb, when it comes to DCAing, if you are feeling FOMO and you don't have exposure to a position that you want exposure to, you can simply invest a third up front, and then you can save the other 2/3 for investing at key levels that you mark out. This might be a breakout of a major high time frame trend, or this may be a major support level as well. So you can be a little bit adaptive with it. If you really want to curb FOMO, you can get a small position in, 25%, 30%, and then over time you can average in the rest of your position. That's a really easy thing for those that feel the FOMO around certain narratives. In terms of Pendle, the Spartan Group just made an OTC purchase to invest into Pendle. So some of the big players now starting to position themselves. As you can see on the chart here, today it actually retested this major support level. By the way, that was an absolutely crazy wick on perps. If you had any limit orders today, you probably would have gotten filled on some pretty good orders. But yeah, it essentially had a perfect test, but it's now starting to consolidate above again. So any major pullbacks for Pendle would definitely be something that I'm looking at to accumulate. I don't have a huge bag here, but I'm presenting it to you as a coin that I think is pretty cool and definitely is one on my radar for a few reasons, but one of the major reasons being the real world asset narrative, which I think can be one of the top narratives in 2024 and beyond. In light of that, I've been doing a lot of research into this sector, and I've come across a few really interesting projects, one of which is Soil, that enables you to earn 14% yield on real world assets. This is how the Soil protocol works. You have your crypto investors who lend stablecoins to the protocol. Soil provides liquidity to the fiat world. The TradFi world then brings yield back into the Soil protocol, and then Soil pays out the stakers, who are the crypto investors, in Soil token rewards. They essentially earn money. They earn a return on investment for lending money to the Soil protocol. So it's this flywheel here that essentially enables users to be paid out. If you want more understanding of where the yield comes from, this is a really good explanation. The yield generated on stablecoins from the lending pools comes from interest paid on loans extended to companies, specifically small and medium-sized enterprises, by private debt fund managers. So you're able to essentially tokenize debt and earn a yield on this debt. And it's just one great example of one of the applications that can be applied to crypto via the utilization of real world assets. Soil are a sponsor of the channel, and the reason why I partnered with them is because I think they're doing something really interesting, and they've built a novel model and are one of the real examples that we've got right now of how real world assets can be utilized. So their product isn't officially live yet, but you can check out in the link in the description the Telegram. I recommend joining their community, learning more about it. Being in these Telegrams is super important to get a feel for the community. Of course, before you invest, you want to do your due diligence. So I highly recommend joining the Telegram in the link in the description below. And of course, they also have a governance token, which is now currently trading. It started to consolidate above the 10-cent level and has been grinding its way upwards to the 14-cent level as well. So it's above its IDO price. So Soil is definitely one that's on my radar in terms of real world assets, where I recommend checking out the Telegram using the link in the description below. And real world assets, as I said, are a vertical that I'm super bullish on. So to wrap up this video here, remember, this is the market where you want to be longing strength. Always look for the strong coins in the market and look for the powering narratives behind the market. I mentioned crypto gaming today. I mentioned Arbitrum today, real world assets today. I feel like these are narratives that the retail world can easily understand and get behind, versus like some of the narratives that are kind of started to dry up, like, you know, the L1 trade from 2021, which may not be as trending. So that's something I'm prioritizing, and you can kind of line this up in terms of confluence with alt BTC pairs to make sure that those altcoins are starting to tick upwards or reverse versus BTC. Like Injective, for example, is super strong versus BTC, but you can go to a coin like Mana, which is still bleeding versus BTC. So you want to look for the coins like Link that are starting to reverse, but still have upside on their US dollar pairs. And I think that's a nice bit of confluence for you to enter altcoin trades in this market. And I just want to leave you on one note. If you're feeling underexposed, the worst thing you can do right now is start randomly FOMOing into alt positions. You shouldn't change your plan based on the fact that prices have pumped. So make sure, if you don't already, outline your strategy. So make a watch list with all the coins that you want to buy, mark out the levels where you want to buy on TradingView, mark out clear invalidation levels, mark out your TP levels, and write down your plan even on a journal or an Excel, and actually outline your plan for each altcoin so you can diligently execute no matter what the market conditions are. The worst thing you can do now is change your plan to fit this bullish narrative, because in reality, you should be sticking to a predetermined plan, which should be prepared both for upside and downside. So determine your altcoin list. If you do want to buy, if you're feeling FOMO, come up with your list, start slowly DCAing, mark out those key levels, and I'm sure you're going to get your entries. But I hope today's video gave you an idea of some of the altcoins that I am looking to buy and some of the altcoins that I'm interested in. So let me know in the comments below if I missed any altcoins that you're bullish on. Of course, I can't talk about every altcoin I like in today's video because my watch list is sitting around 30 alts at the moment. Today we're only 5, but they're the 5 that I think could potentially outperform versus other alts based on their narrative. So hope you enjoyed. I will see you in the next video next week and hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Peace out.